Jake Morrison looked at the job posting on his screen for the third time. The pay was good, too good. Jobs that paid this much always came with problems. Delivery to Kepler 442b system, he read out loud to his empty cargo ship. High hazard pay. No questions asked. Captain Lisa Grant's face appeared on his communication screen. She looked tired. Morrison, please tell me you're thinking about taking this job. What's the catch? Jake asked. He leaned back in his pilot seat. Nobody pays 50,000 credits for a simple delivery. Lisa rubbed her forehead. The system is quarantined. Has been for 15 years. Every ship that goes there comes back wrong. If they come back at all. Jake raised an eyebrow. Wrong how? The crews go crazy. They won't talk about what they saw. Just sit in corners and shake. The doctors call it Kepler syndrome. And you want me to go there? You're the only pilot crazy enough to try. The cargo is medical supplies. There's a research station on the edge of the system. They're running out of food and medicine. Jake thought about it. He needed the money. His ship, the Meridian's Edge, was falling apart. The engine made strange noises. The life support system had a leak somewhere. Without this job, he would be stuck on this station for months. What kind of danger are we talking about? He asked. Lisa's expression grew serious. The official report says there's an unknown entity on the planet. Something that drives people insane just by being near it. The Galactic Coalition won't send military ships anymore. But they'll send me. You've survived things that killed other pilots. Ice storms on Proxima. The radiation fields near Vega. You don't panic like other people do. Jake looked at his bank account. Almost empty. He looked at his ship's repair list. 3 pages long. He looked at the job posting again. I'll take it, he said. 3 days later, Jake's ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442b system. Red warning lights flashed on his control panel. His radio crackled with automated messages. Warning, you are entering a restricted zone. Turn back immediately. This system is classified as a Class X psychological hazard. No unauthorized ships permitted. Jake turned off the warnings. He had permits signed by 3 different coalition officials. Getting them had cost him half his advance payment, but they were real. The system looked normal. A yellow star, not much different from Earth's sun. Several planets orbited around it. The third planet was where he needed to go, where the thing lived. As Jake flew closer, his instruments started acting strange. The navigation computer kept resetting itself. The radio picked up signals that weren't there. Static mixed with what sounded like voices speaking in languages he didn't know. Just equipment problems, Jake told himself. Old ship, old systems. But deep down he felt something else. A pressure in his head. Like someone was watching him. Like something was waiting. His engine made a loud bang. Red lights flashed across his control panel. The main power core was overheating. If he didn't land soon, his ship would explode. Perfect, Jake muttered. Just perfect. The third planet grew larger in his window. It looked green and blue like Earth. Beautiful. Nothing scary about it. Jake aimed for a flat area near what looked like a river. His ship shook as it entered the atmosphere. The landing was rough. Jake bounced in his seat as the ship hit the ground hard. Steam rose from the engine compartment. At least they were down in one piece. Jake put on his environmental suit and stepped outside. The air was breathable according to his scanner. He took off his helmet and breathed deep. It smelled like rain and growing things. Not dangerous at all. He opened the engine compartment and looked inside. The main power coupling had cracked. It would take hours to fix, maybe days. He needed parts from his spare supply. As Jake worked, the feeling of being watched got stronger. He kept looking over his shoulder but saw nothing. Just trees and grass moving in the wind. Then he heard it, not with his ears but inside his mind. A voice soft and curious. Why aren't you running? Jake dropped his wrench. It clanged on the metal deck. He looked around again. Still nothing. Who's there? He called out. You can hear me, the voice said. It sounded surprised. The others always ran before we could talk. Jake's heart beat faster, but he didn't run. Running wouldn't fix his ship. Are you the thing everyone's afraid of? A pause, then quieter. I suppose I am. Though I never meant to frighten anyone. Well, you're not frightening me, Jake said. It was mostly true. I'm just trying to fix my ship. Your ship is broken? Yeah, power coupling cracked on landing. Happens sometimes with old ships like this one. Another pause. Longer this time. I could help you. How? I understand energy systems. Electricity, magnetism, quantum fields. Your ship uses fusion power, yes? Jake blinked. How did it know that? Yes, it does. I can see the break in your power flow. Like a river with rocks blocking it. I could move the rocks. You can fix my ship? If you want me to. Jake thought about it. Every story he'd heard said this thing was dangerous, but it was offering to help. And he needed help. What do you want in return? He asked. Nothing, the voice said quickly. It's been so long since someone talked to me. Usually they scream and leave. Something in the voice made Jake feel sad. It sounded lonely. Very lonely. Okay, Jake said. You can help. But let me see you first. I don't like talking to invisible people. The air in front of him shimmered. Slowly a shape appeared. It looked almost human, but made of light and shadow. A woman's shape, tall and graceful. Her face was kind, but her eyes held deep sadness. My name is Zara, she said. And now Jake could hear her with his ears as well as his mind. Thank you for not running away. Jake looked at her for a long moment. She didn't look scary. Just sad and alone. I'm Jake, he said. Nice to meet you, Zara. For the first time in 3,000 years, Zara smiled. Zara moved toward Jake's ship like flowing water. Her form shifted between solid and transparent. When she touched the broken power coupling, it began to glow with soft blue light. There, she said. The energy flows freely now. Jake checked his instruments. All green lights. His ship's power levels were better than they had been in years. That's incredible. How did you do that? I see energy the way you see colors, Zara explained. Your people call it electromagnetic fields. To me, it's like a language. Jake nodded, though he didn't fully understand. The medical supplies I'm carrying. They're for a research station. People are sick. I know about the station, Zara said. I've watched their transmissions. They study me from far away. Study you how? Zara's form grew dimmer. They send probes. Scan me with instruments. They think I'm dangerous. Are you? The question hung in the air between them. Zara was quiet for a long time. I am what I am, she finally said. I need energy to live. Like you need food and water. But I don't need to hurt anyone to get it. Jake sat down on his ship's loading ramp. Tell me about the others. The ones who ran away. Zara sat beside him, though she didn't really sit. She just formed the shape of sitting. They felt my hunger. All living things have electrical fields in their bodies. When I'm near them, they can sense that I could feed on that energy. Could, but don't. I don't need to. There's energy everywhere. In your ship's engines. In the planet's magnetic field. In the lightning storms. But other species feel my presence like a predator's stare. Jake thought about this. Humans used to be prey animals way back. But we were also hunters. Maybe that's why I'm not scared. Maybe, Zara said. Or maybe you're just different. Over the next few hours, Jake learned more about Zara. She had been alone on this planet for thousands of years. Her people, the Velkata, were all dead. She was the last one. What happened to them? Jake asked. Zara's light grew dim. There was a war. Other species were afraid of us. They said we were too dangerous to exist. Were you? We never attacked anyone. We explored. We built cities that lived in harmony with the energy fields of planets. We created art from pure light and music from solar winds. Her voice grew sad. But fear is stronger than understanding. Jake felt angry. They killed your entire species because they were scared. The Galactic Coalition calls it the Great Cleansing. They have monuments to celebrate it. They say they saved the galaxy from a terrible threat. That's horrible. I hid when the ships came. Watched my people die from a distance. I've been alone ever since. Jake was quiet for a while. He thought about his own species. Humans had done terrible things too, but they had also shown great kindness. What about the research station? Why haven't you talked to them? I tried at first, but their equipment detected my approach and they went into lockdown. Their commander sent messages calling me a hostile entity and requesting military support. Military support? Zara nodded. A coalition fleet is coming. They plan to use a quantum disruptor to eliminate me. When? Soon, days, maybe weeks. Jake stood up. We have to stop them. How? You're one human with a cargo ship. They have warships. I have something they don't, Jake said. I have the truth. Jake spent the next day recording everything. Zara showed him memories of her people. Beautiful cities that pulsed with living light. Art that existed as pure energy, changing and flowing like music made visible. Scientists who could speak with the electromagnetic fields of planets themselves. Your people were amazing. Jake said as he watched the recordings. We were different, Zara replied. Different is often seen as dangerous. Jake also recorded his conversations with Zara, her sadness, her loneliness, her gentle nature. This wasn't a monster. This was someone who had lost everything and been blamed for crimes she never committed. On the second day, Jake's radio crackled to life. A voice from the research station. Unknown vessel in the restricted zone. Identify yourself immediately. Jake picked up the microphone. This is cargo vessel Meridian's Edge. Captain Jake Morrison. I have medical supplies for your station. Morrison, you're not on our approved list. How did you get past the quarantine? I have permits. Coalition Authorization Code 77 Alpha. A long pause. Stand by. Another voice came on the radio. Older, more authoritative. Morrison, this is Commander Ryan Bell. You need to leave this system immediately. There's a hostile entity on the planet below you. I know about Zara, Jake said. Silence. Then, you've made contact with it? Her name is Zara, and yes, we've talked. Morrison, you're in extreme danger. The entity is a Class X psychological hazard. It will drive you insane. I feel fine, Commander. Actually, I feel better than I have in years. That's part of the effect. It makes you think you're safe while it slowly destroys your mind. You need to get away from it now. Jake looked at Zara. She was listening to the conversation with a sad expression. Commander, I've been here 3 days. Zara helped fix my ship. She's told me about her people. She's not dangerous. Morrison, listen to me carefully. That thing has killed millions of beings. It's a parasite that feeds on neural energy. Every ship that's encountered it has reported the same thing. First contact seems friendly, then the crew goes insane. What if they were wrong? Jake asked. Wrong about what? What if Zara never hurt anyone? What if the Coalition made a mistake 3,000 years ago? The radio went quiet for a long time. When Commander Bell spoke again, his voice was colder. Morrison, you're clearly under the entity's influence. We're sending a rescue ship to extract you. Do not resist, Jake turned off the radio. He looked at Zara. They won't listen, she said quietly. Then we'll make them listen, Jake replied. I'm going to send these recordings to every human ship in this sector. Maybe my people will be different. And if they're not, Jake thought about it. He thought about Zara alone for 3,000 years. He thought about the Coalition fleet coming to kill the last member of an entire species. He thought about fear and misunderstanding and the terrible things they could make people do. Then at least someone will know the truth, he said. That night, as Jake prepared his transmissions, Zara asked him a question. Jake, why do you believe me? Why aren't you afraid? Jake looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships were coming to destroy this lonely being who had shown him nothing but kindness. Maybe because I've been alone too, he said. Not for thousands of years, but long enough to know what it feels like. And maybe because sometimes the scariest thing isn't the monster everyone warns you about. Sometimes it's the people who call something a monster without ever trying to understand it. Zara was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was very soft. Thank you, Jake Morrison, for seeing me as more than just something to fear. Jake smiled. Thank you for trusting me enough to show me who you really are. As he sent his messages out into space, Jake hoped that somewhere, someone would listen. Someone would care enough to question what they had been told. Someone would choose understanding over fear. But he wasn't counting on it. Humans were his people. But he knew they could be just as scared and stubborn as anyone else. He just hoped they were also capable of being better. Jake's messages had been traveling through space for 2 days when the first response came. Dr. Sophie Lane, a human archaeologist working on a Coalition research ship, appeared on his communication screen. Mr. Morrison, she said, I've reviewed your recordings. If what you're showing us is true, this changes everything we know about the Velkata. You know about her people? Jake asked. I've been studying the archaeological sites from the Great Cleansing for years. Official records say the Velkata were aggressive parasites, but the evidence never matched that story. Jake felt a spark of hope. What kind of evidence? Their cities were built to work with natural energy flows, not against them. Their art shows a peaceful culture focused on harmony and exploration. And the timing of the war? Dr. Lane paused. It started right after the Coalition discovered quantum crystal deposits in Velkata space. Quantum crystals? The most valuable substance in the galaxy. Used in faster-than-light drives and energy weapons. Worth killing for if you were that kind of people. Jake looked at Zara, who was listening nearby. Her light seemed brighter. "Can you prove this?" he asked. "I'm trying, but I need more time. And the Coalition fleet is already moving toward your position." Admiral Tom Blake's face appeared on another channel. He looked like a man who had fought too many wars. "Morrison, you have 12 hours to evacuate before we begin the cleansing operation. Admiral, please listen to the evidence. Dr. Lane has proof that I don't care what some archaeologist thinks she's found. That thing killed my grandfather and half his crew 70 years ago." Jake was surprised. "Your grandfather was at one of the early encounters?" "Captain William Blake, Coalition Survey Ship Destiny. They made first contact with a Velkata entity in 2317. Only 3 men survived, and they all died screaming in psychiatric hospitals." "What if there's more to that story?" Admiral Blake's face hardened. "There's nothing more to know. That thing is a killer, and I'm going to finish what my grandfather started." The communication ended. Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. "Zara," he said, "tell me about 2317. Tell me about the ship called Destiny." Zara's form flickered. "That was one of the worst days of my life." "What happened?" "I wasn't the only Velkata who survived the war. There were 3 others scattered across different systems. Keth was one of them." Her voice grew sad. "He had been alone for decades when the human ship found him." "And?" "Keth was damaged by the isolation. When you live for thousands of years and spend decades completely alone, sometimes your mind breaks. He tried to connect with the humans, but his control was gone. He fed on them without meaning to." Jake felt sick. "He killed them, not on purpose. But yes, they died. When I learned what happened, I tried to find Keth to help him, but he was already gone. The Coalition had found him and used one of their early quantum disruptors. So Admiral Blake isn't wrong. A Velkata did kill his grandfather. Yes, but not because we're monsters. Because isolation and pain can make anyone dangerous, even someone who never wanted to hurt anyone." Jake understood. It was like a human soldier who came back from war broken and violent. The person wasn't evil, but they could still be dangerous. Over the next few hours, more responses came to Jake's messages. Some humans believed his story. Others called him crazy. But slowly a picture emerged. Dr. Kate Phillips, a psychiatrist who had studied Kepler syndrome, sent a detailed analysis. "The symptoms aren't consistent with psychic attack," she said. "They're consistent with overwhelming guilt and fear. The crews who visited that system came back traumatized because they believed they had encountered something evil. But if Morrison is right, they were feeling empathy for a suffering being, not malice." Captain Lisa Grant contacted him directly. "Jake, I've been fighting the bureaucracy for 2 days. Half the human representatives in the Coalition want to delay the cleansing until we can investigate. But the other half are too scared to listen. What about Earth Command? They're sending a ship, but it won't arrive for a week. The Coalition fleet will be there tomorrow." Jake felt time running out. He looked at Zara, who seemed dimmer than before. "Are you okay?" he asked. "I can feel them coming," she said. "The quantum disruptor. It's like a song of ending. When they use it, everything that I am will simply stop. We won't let that happen." "Jake, you should leave. Take your ship and go. You've done more for me than anyone has in 3,000 years. I don't want you to die because of me." Jake shook his head. "I'm not leaving. Why not?" Jake thought about it. Why was he willing to risk his life for someone he had known for only a few days? "Because you asked me to stay. Because everyone else left you alone. Because sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do." That night, Zara showed Jake more memories. The beauty of Velkata civilization. Cities that sang with harmonized energy. Art that existed as living light, telling stories that lasted for centuries. Scientists who could communicate with the magnetic fields of entire planets. "We weren't perfect," Zara said. "We made mistakes. Some of us became too proud, too sure of our own wisdom. But we never wanted to conquer or destroy. We just wanted to understand." "What happened to the others? The other survivors?" "Dead, all of them. Keth was the last besides me. After what happened with the Destiny, the Coalition started actively hunting us. They found each survivor and destroyed them." "How did you escape?" "I hid better. I learned to suppress my energy signature, to seem like a natural phenomenon instead of a living being. But the loneliness," her voice broke. 3,000 years, Jake. Do you know what that feels like?" Jake couldn't imagine it. The longest he had been truly alone was a few months between jobs. "I'm sorry. The worst part isn't the time. It's the knowledge that everyone who might have understood me is gone. That I'm the last voice of my people, and no one will ever hear it. I hear it, Jake said. You're one person. Sometimes one person is enough to start something bigger. As if to prove his point, Dr. Sophie Lane contacted them again. Morrison, I've found something. Coalition records from 2346 mention a secret archaeological expedition to a former Velkata world. They found intact databases proving the Velkata were peaceful. The expedition was classified and the evidence sealed. Why? Because admitting they were wrong would mean admitting they committed genocide against an innocent species. The political fallout would destroy the coalition. Jake felt anger building in his chest. So they're going to kill Zara to cover up their crime. It looks that way. But I'm not giving up. I'm sending everything I've found to the Human Council and the Independent Worlds Alliance. If enough people know the truth, maybe we can stop this. The communication ended. Jake turned to Zara. Did you know about the cover-up? I suspected. But I had no proof and no one would listen to me. Jake made a decision. Zara, I want you to share your memories with me. All of them. Everything about your people, your history, your culture. If they kill you, at least someone will remember. That's dangerous, Jake. My memories span thousands of years. A human mind isn't designed to hold that much. Then we'll figure out how to make it work. Zara stared at him. You would risk your sanity for me? I'd risk more than that. For the first time since he had met her, Jake saw something like hope in Zara's eyes. Very well, she said. But Jake, if this goes wrong, if my memories damage your mind, I want you to know something. What? In 3,000 years of loneliness, these few days with you have been the brightest lights in the darkness. Thank you for seeing me as a person instead of a monster. Jake smiled. Thank you for trusting me enough to let me try. As Zara began to share her memories, Jake felt his mind expanding. Images, sounds, emotions from across millennia flooded through him. The joy of Velkata children learning to shape light with their thoughts, the sadness of watching stars die, the terror of the final war, and through it all the crushing weight of being the last, the only one left to remember. Jake gritted his teeth and held on. Someone had to remember. Someone had to carry their story forward, even if it killed him. Jake woke up with the memories of 3,000 years burning in his mind. He could remember things he had never seen. The taste of light on Velkata tongues, the feeling of swimming through pure energy between the stars, the sound of an entire species dying. Are you okay? Zara asked. She looked worried. Jake sat up slowly. His head felt like it was splitting apart, but he was still himself. Still human. I think so. The memories are there, but they feel separate from my own thoughts. That's good. It means your mind is stronger than I expected. Jake checked his instruments. The coalition fleet had arrived during the night. 12 ships in formation, moving toward the planet. Admiral Blake's flagship, the Retribution, led the group. Jake Morrison. Admiral Blake's voice crackled over the radio. You have 1 hour to evacuate. After that, we begin the cleansing. Jake picked up the microphone. Admiral, I need to tell you something about your grandfather. I don't want to hear your lies, please. Just listen for 1 minute. A long pause. Then, 1 minute. Jake took a deep breath. Your grandfather wasn't killed by a monster. He was killed by someone who was suffering, someone who had been alone so long that his mind broke. Keth was a scientist, a peaceful being, but isolation drove him insane. You're telling me that thing has a name? They all had names. They were people, Admiral. Your grandfather died in a tragedy, not an attack. Another pause. Even if that's true, the entity you're protecting could be just as dangerous. Zara isn't Keth. She's had 3,000 years to learn control. She's never hurt anyone. How do you know that? Jake touched his temple, where Zara's memories lived alongside his own. Because I've seen her entire life. Every day of those 3,000 years. Every moment of loneliness and pain. Every time she could have given up but chose to keep going instead. The radio was quiet for a long time. When Admiral Blake spoke again, his voice was different, uncertain. You're claiming to have access to its memories? Her memories, and yes, Zara shared them with me. That's impossible. No human mind could survive that kind of psychic contact. Maybe that's why it worked, Jake said. Humans are stubborn. We don't break as easily as you might think. Dr. Ben Carter's voice cut into the conversation. He was the Coalition's chief scientist on this mission. Admiral, I'm reading some very unusual energy signatures from the planet. The human's biosigns show neural activity far above normal levels, but he appears stable. What does that mean? Admiral Blake asked. It means Morrison might be telling the truth. If he really has absorbed the entity's memories, he would be the first being in galactic history to successfully interface with Velkata consciousness. Jake felt a spark of hope. Dr. Carter, can you scan deeper? Look at the memory patterns? I can try. Stand by. The next few minutes felt like hours. Jake could feel the scanning beams from the coalition ships washing over him, probing his mind, measuring the alien memories nested inside his thoughts. Admiral, Dr. Carter said, his voice full of amazement, the memory patterns are genuine. This human has actually absorbed 3 millennia of Velkata history. Could the entity have faked them? Not without destroying his mind in the process, no sir. These are real memories from a real Velkata consciousness. Admiral Blake was quiet for a long time. Dr. Carter, what did the memories show about the original war? Jake answered before the scientist could speak. They show that your people lied. The Velkata never attacked anyone. The coalition wanted their space for the quantum crystals. They declared war based on fear and greed, then covered it up by calling it a necessary cleansing. That's a serious accusation, Morrison. It's the truth, and I have proof now. 3,000 years of proof. Dr. Carter's voice was troubled. Admiral, I've been analyzing the quantum disruptor settings. There's something you need to know. What is it? The power levels we're using won't just eliminate the entity. They'll sterilize the entire system. No life will be able to survive here for centuries. Jake felt cold. Why would you do that? Because, a new voice said, dead systems are easier to mine. The speaker was Coalition Minister Rachel Hayes, Admiral Blake's superior. Her image appeared on Jake's screen, cold and calculating. Minister, Admiral Blake said, what are you talking about? The Kepler system contains the largest quantum crystal deposits ever discovered. Once we eliminate the entity, mining operations can begin immediately. The sterilization is just a bonus. No environmental protesters to worry about. Jake stared at the screen. You're going to destroy an entire ecosystem for money? I'm going to secure resources that will benefit trillions of coalition citizens, Minister Hayes replied. The entity is just an inconvenient obstacle. Admiral Blake's voice was sharp. Minister, that wasn't part of my briefing. Because you didn't need to know. Your job is to eliminate the threat. My job is to think about the bigger picture. Jake could see the doubt growing in Admiral Blake's expression. The Admiral had come here to avenge his grandfather and protect the galaxy from a monster. Now he was learning that he was really here to help cover up a genocide and destroy a planet for profit. Admiral, Jake said, you don't have to do this. Morrison, even if you're right about the entity being peaceful, I have my orders. Orders to commit genocide, orders to protect coalition interests. Jake made a decision. He turned to Zara, who had been listening to everything. Zara, I need to ask you something important. What is it? Jake's heart was pounding. What he was about to ask would change everything. For both of them. You said you could share your longevity with me, make me like you. Zara's light flickered. Yes, but Jake, you would have to give up your human life. You would become something new. Something between human and Velkata. And we could rebuild? Start over? Perhaps. But it would take centuries. Maybe millennia. And you might never see another human again. Jake looked at the coalition fleet on his scanner. 12 ships ready to destroy the last member of an ancient, peaceful species. Ready to sterilize a beautiful planet for money. He thought about his own life. A cargo pilot with a broken ship and no family. No one would miss him much. But Zara, if she died, an entire civilization died with her. Zara, he said quietly, will you stay forever? Because I might be the first one who didn't dread you. But you're also the first one who never asked me to be anything other than myself. Zara stared at him. Jake, are you asking what I think you're asking? I'm asking if you want to not be alone anymore. I'm asking if you want to try building something new together. Even if it means giving up everything you know. Jake smiled. I've been alone most of my life too. Maybe it's time to try something different. Zara's light grew brighter than he had ever seen it. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I want that more than anything. Jake turned back to his radio. Admiral Blake, I'm transmitting all of Zara's memories to your fleet. Every ship, every computer, every recorder. In 5 minutes, the truth about the Velkata will be in 1,000 different databases across Coalition space. Morrison, what are you doing? Making sure the truth survives even if we don't. Minister Hayes's voice was furious. "Admiral, stop him!" But it was too late. Jake's transmission was already spreading through the Coalition fleet's computer networks. 3,000 years of Velkata history, culture, and memories. Proof of their peaceful nature. Evidence of the Coalition's lies. "Admiral," Dr. Carter said, "the transmission is authentic. These memories prove everything Morrison has said." Admiral Blake was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with the weight of terrible choices. "Minister Hayes, I refuse to carry out this operation. Admiral, you are relieving of command. Captain Brooks will complete the mission." "No, sir," another voice said. It was Captain Brooks. "I refuse as well." One by one, the ship captains in Admiral Blake's fleet announced their refusal to fire on Zara. The memories Jake had shared showed them the truth. They could see the beauty of what they had been ordered to destroy. Minister Hayes's face was red with anger. "This is mutiny." "This is justice," Admiral Blake replied. Jake felt Zara's hand touch his shoulder. Her touch was warm and electric. "Are you ready?" she asked. Jake took one last look at his ship, at his old life, at the person he had been. Then he looked at Zara, at the possibility of building something new from the ashes of something beautiful that had been destroyed. "I'm ready," he said. The transformation began. 5 years later, Jake Morrison stood on a cliff overlooking the valley where he had first met Zara. He looked human still, mostly, but his eyes held depths that spoke of centuries he had not yet lived. His hair had streaks of silver that moved like liquid metal in the light. The transformation had been gentler than either of them expected. Zara's energy had merged with his life force slowly, carefully, preserving everything that made him human while adding something new. He could feel electromagnetic fields now, could speak with the planet's magnetic currents, but he still loved coffee and still worried about his old ship's engine. "Jake?" Zara called from the garden they had built together. She appeared more solid now, more human-like, though she could still shift into pure energy when she wanted to. "The transport from Earth is arriving." Jake nodded and walked toward the landing pad they had carved from the cliff face. The first official diplomatic mission from Earth was finally arriving. Captain Lisa Grant commanded the ship, along with Dr. Sophie Lane and a team of scientists, artists, and diplomats. The past 5 years had changed everything. Jake's transmission of Zara's memories had spread throughout human space and beyond. The truth about the Velkata had sparked investigations, protests, and eventually a complete restructuring of the Galactic Coalition. Minister Hayes was in prison. Admiral Blake had become a hero for refusing his orders, and Kepler 442b had become a protected world under human guardianship. "Nervous?" Zara asked, taking Jake's hand. "A little. It's been just us for so long." They had not been completely alone. Over the years, a few scientists had come to study Velkata technology. A few artists had come to learn about energy sculpture. Dr. Kate Phillips had visited to study the long-term effects of Jake's transformation. All of them had left changed, carrying a piece of understanding back to their own worlds. But this was different. This was Earth officially recognizing Zara as the representative of her people, and Jake as humanity's ambassador to the Velkata legacy. The transport ship settled onto the landing pad with a quiet hum. The door opened and Captain Grant stepped out, followed by Dr. Lane and the others. "Jake Morrison," Lisa said, shaking his hand. "You look good. Different, but good. I feel different. But still me." Dr. Lane was staring at Zara with scientific fascination. "The energy patterns are incredible. It's like watching music made visible." "Thank you," Zara said. "We've prepared something to show you." They led the delegation to the center of the settlement. Where once there had been empty grassland, now stood something that was part building, part artwork, part living organism. Structures of crystallized energy rose from the ground like frozen lightning, pulsing with soft light that responded to the emotions of anyone nearby. "This is what we've been building," Jake explained. "A new kind of city, part human engineering, part Velkata energy shaping." "It's beautiful," Dr. Lane breathed. "It's also functional," Zara added. "The energy flows provide power, climate control, and communication. But more than that, it harmonizes with the planet's natural systems. We're not building on the world, we're building with it." Captain Grant looked around in amazement. "How many people could a city like this support?" "Thousands eventually," Jake said. "But we're starting small, learning as we go." Over the next few days, the delegation learned about the new life Jake and Zara were building. They toured the memory archives where Velkata history was being preserved and translated. They watched energy sculptures that told stories spanning millennia. They listened to music composed from solar wind patterns. But the most important conversation happened on the last night, when Captain Grant sat alone with Jake on the same cliff where his ship had first landed. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "Giving up your old life?" Jake thought about it. "I miss some things. Coffee doesn't taste the same when you can perceive its molecular structure, and I'll probably never again experience the simple joy of a perfectly tuned engine. But I've gained so much more. I can feel the planet's heartbeat. I can touch the aurora and understand what it's saying. And Zara," he smiled, "she's not just my partner, Lisa. She's become part of my soul." "And she? Does she seem happy?" Jake looked toward the settlement, where Zara was showing Dr. Lane how to shape light with thought patterns. For the first time in 3,000 years, she was teaching someone her people's arts. "She laughs now," Jake said. "Real laughter, not just politeness. She sings while she works. She dreams about the future instead of mourning the past. The Coalition Council wants to establish a permanent research station here. Cultural exchange programs. Maybe even colonization if you're willing. We've talked about it. The answer is yes, but with conditions, such as no military presence, no mining operations, no one who comes here with conquest on their mind. This is a place for learning and building, not taking." Captain Grant nodded. "I think we can arrange that. The humans who want to come here are scientists, artists, philosophers. People who want to understand rather than exploit." "Good. Zara has so much to teach, and I think humans have things to offer her people's legacy too." "What do you mean?" Jake smiled. "Stubbornness, hope, the refusal to give up on someone just because everyone else has written them off. Those are human traits worth preserving." The next morning, as the Earth delegation prepared to leave, Zara approached Jake with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking about what Captain Grant said about colonization, and what if we could do more than just preserve Velkata knowledge? What if we could create something new, a hybrid culture that combines the best of both our peoples?" Jake took her hand. "What are you thinking?" "Children, Jake, not biological children, but something like them. New beings created from the merger of human consciousness and Velkata energy. The next step in evolution for both our species." Jake felt a thrill of possibility. "Would that work?" "I think so. It would take time, experimentation, but imagine beings who have human creativity and stubbornness combined with Velkata energy mastery and longevity. A new species. A new hope." That evening, after the Earthship had departed, Jake and Zara sat together in their garden. The city around them pulsed with gentle light, and the planet's aurora danced overhead in patterns that seemed almost like music. "Do you think we're doing the right thing?" Zara asked. "I think we're doing something that's never been done before. That makes it either very right or very wrong. And you're okay with not knowing which?" Jake laughed. "Zara, I gave up everything I knew to spend forever with someone I'd just met. If I worried too much about being wrong, I'd never do anything interesting." Zara smiled and leaned against him. "Forever is a long time, Jake Morrison." "Yeah," Jake replied, watching the aurora paint stories across the sky. "But with you, it doesn't seem long enough." Years passed. The settlement grew. Humans came to learn and stayed to build. The first hybrid consciousness was successfully created, a being that was neither fully human nor fully Velkata, but something entirely new. Dr. Sophie Lane established the Institute for Energy Studies. Captain Grant retired from the Coalition Navy to become the Earth ambassador to Kepler 442b. Even Admiral Blake visited once, to pay his respects to the last Velkata and to apologize for the crimes of his ancestors. And through it all, Jake and Zara worked together to build something that had never existed before. A place where two very different species could learn from each other. A community based on understanding rather than fear. One day, as Jake worked in the memory archives, he found an old recording. His own voice from 5 years ago transmitting Zara's memories to the Coalition fleet. "Making sure the truth survives even if we don't," his younger self said. Jake smiled. The truth had survived. But so had they. Against all odds, despite all the fear and misunderstanding and hatred that had tried to destroy them, they had survived. More than that, they had flourished. "What are you thinking about?" Zara asked, appearing beside him in a shimmer of light. Just remembering, Jake said. Thinking about how you asked me to stay forever because I was the first one who didn't dread you. And how that was the best question anyone ever asked me. Zara smiled, and in her smile Jake could see the future they were building together. A future where being different wasn't something to fear, but something to celebrate, where the last survivor of an ancient race and a stubborn human pilot could create something beautiful from the ruins of tragedy. Forever, it turned out, wasn't so long after all. It was just long enough to build something worth lasting for.